Mahyam Dadati Shapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapata Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lavita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari. Jay. Again, my apologies for being mixed up about the times. We want to talk about the importance of the morning program.
Morning sadhana, Maharaj.
Morning, yes, about the morning sadhana, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Morning sadhana, of course, morning sadhana started off for me as the morning program because I was living as a brahmachari in the temple for so many years. And we had a very standard program of Mangalarti and then japa, Tulsi worship, japa, then the Darshanarti class, and then prasadam. So that was our program. And I have to say from my personal experience that this gives tremendous strength. It gives tremendous strength having that full morning in that way, focused on Krishna conscious activities, gives a real injection of spiritual knowledge, spiritual association, spiritual hearing and chanting, spiritual happiness, everything that you might want is there in the morning program. Therefore, we saw that those who followed the morning program strictly made so much advancement, regardless of their situation, regardless of their engagement, regardless of where they came from. They made tremendous advancement. The Westerners who joined the Hare Krishna movement from all sorts of backgrounds made tremendous advancement just on the strength of that morning program, especially. So much power is there. Now, fast forward, we're in a different situation now. I think almost everyone on the call. There's my reminder that class is at 11. Okay. Everyone on the call probably is living at home. There's, you may not be living, there may not be a temple program, or the temple program may be quite weak. Or even if it's there, you may not be able to attend it because of other responsibilities, family responsibilities, work responsibilities. So then we don't get the full benefit. Of course, a benefit of the pandemic is that so many devotees are staying home, and should they choose to do so, as you're doing now, you can avail yourself of the opportunity to hear and chant and associate with devotees. And that goes on in different ways. I know that there's at ISKCON Central New Jersey, there's a japa class or a japa session where all the devotees get together for maybe it's an hour or something like that. and there's a class, and there's so many. The internet now is full of programs. So one can take, and apart from that, even when it's not full of programs, the Krishna consciousness movement or the process of Krishna consciousness is so flexible that one doesn't need a big institution for these programs. You can sit down at home, wife and husband and wife and children. Even you can sit, if everyone else is busy, you yourself can sit and follow the same program, basically, to see the deity, to have kirtan, to chant japa, to hear something or chant something from Srimad Bhagavatam, read something, offer something to Krishna, take prasadam. We can all do that. And it's mostly a question of regulation and habit and determination. Regulation and habit are matters of determination. We can mold our life within constraints pretty much as we like. Maybe I have to go to work at such and such hour. Maybe I have to do this at such and such hour. Maybe I have to cook for the kids at such and such hour. So yes, there are, what would we say, fixed times that we are committed to, and where we may not be able to do sadhana bhakti or be able to do that kind of program. But in between, before, after, build the whole thing in such a way that it's doable. And regular. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. What is that? Nityada. It's in the first canto. Pujastra Nityada. Like that. I've forgotten. It's in the second chapter, first canto. Yayam Pujastra Nityada, like that. So that we can think of Krishna and chant Hare Krishna and be engaged in Krishna's service. And that will give us strength, especially in householder life. It's not that these activities are just meant for the brahmacharis. They're particularly important for the grihastas, because the brahmacharis all day long, they'll be in the temple, they'll be out on kirtan, they'll be in some direct Krishna conscious engagement for the most part, distributing books. But the householders will be working, the householders will be in so many other engagements that are part of their devotional life, but are not directly hearing and chanting hearing and chanting about Krishna. So then this program of sadhana becomes still more important. Otherwise, we just sort of sink into family life, and it's all about the family. And Krishna's there someplace. His picture is there. Maybe there's a deity, but he's sort of a side interest, or someone we want to get back to when we have the opportunity. But meanwhile, all the householder activities and job activities are in the forefront. So if we don't want to be swallowed up entirely by those things, then this is our lifeline, this program of sadhana. This is our lifeline. And the stronger we can make it, the better. Now, sadhana bhakti is explained in the Nectar of Devotion. That's our guidebook for sadhana. And let's turn there just for a moment. We'll turn there for a moment. First, he says that Rupa Goswami says that devotional service is is a continuation from previous life. Then he explains that there are three categories of devotional service: in practice, in ecstasy, and in pure love of Godhead. And of course, the sadhana bhakti is practice. So that's the first stage. But it's interesting, we have to note, that even in the advanced stages, the devotees still follow sadhana. Is it Sanatana Goswami? Or was it Raghunath Das Goswami? It said that his sadhana was so firm that it was like a line in stone. And they're in Prema Bhakti, the Goswamis. What is that? Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibhi Kalau Sava Nikrito Nidrahara Vihara Kari. So they were chanting yes, thank you, Mahaprasad Govinda. Tasmade Kena Manasa Bhagavan. That just disappeared from my screen. Phone is not the best thing. Okay. Shrotavya Kirtitavyas Cha Jaya Pujas Chinityada. Yes. With one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, the protector of the devotees. Ekena manasa tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan sampatam patihi Shrotavya kirtitavyascha jaya pujas chanityada. Yes, thank you. So the Goswamis were very absorbed in love of Krishna. They're absorbed in love of Krishna. Radha Krishna Maharanisham Prabhajito Vivartato. But still, their practices of devotional service were so strong. Their Sankhya chanting a certain number of rounds and following so many regular rules. Someone's microphone is on that should be muted. Okay. So the beginning is practice. Practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. Therefore, devotional service in practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. Some of the senses are meant for acquiring knowledge, some for executing the conclusions of thinking, feeling, and willing. So practice means employing both the mind and the senses in practical devotional service. This practice is not for developing something artificial. For example, a child learns or practices to walk. This walking is not unnatural. The walking capacity is there originally in the child, and simply by a little practice, he walks very nicely. Similarly, devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the natural instinct of every living entity. Even uncivilized men like the Aborigines offer their respectful obeisances to something wonderful exhibited by nature's law. And they appreciate that behind the wonderful exhibition or action, there is something supreme. So this consciousness, though lying dormant in those who are materially contaminated, is found in every living entity. And when purified, this is called Krishna consciousness. Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi, Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koriya Udoi. It's already there, it just needs to be reawakened. How? Shravanadi. By hearing, chanting, remembering, and so on. There are certain prescribed methods for employing our senses and mind in such a way that our dormant consciousness for loving Krishna will be invoked. As much as the child with a little practice can begin to walk. One who has no basic walking capacity cannot walk by practice. So we can't arouse Krishna consciousness just by practice. When we wish to develop our innate capacity for devotional service, there are certain processes which, by our accepting and executing them, will cause that dormant capacity to be invoked. Such practice is called sadhana bhakti. So there's your definition. There are certain things that we can do that will reawaken our dormant Krishna consciousness. That's sadhana. That's sadhana. And then Prabhupada explains that basically we're all madmen. Anyone who's in the material world is mad because he's always engaged in activities that are the cause of bondage and suffering. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma. We're all madmen. Otherwise, why are we here? And so we have to practice sadhana bhakti to get free from this madness. That's the first thing. Before we talk, as a man's mental disease is cured by the directions of a psychiatrist, so this sadhana bhakti cures the conditioned soul of his madness under the spell of material nature. So that's the first thing. We're all madmen. Anyone who's come to this material world is mad. So we have to cure the madness by this method of sadhana bhakti, which Prabhupada explains means, we just talked about it above. I've lost the place, but basically he says by Mangalarti and by hearing and chanting. To offer Mangalarti, refrain from certain material activities, offer obeisances to the spiritual master, and follow many other regulations and rules described in Nectar of Devotion. Then, yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshayet. It's the duty of the spiritual master to find the ways and means for the disciple to fix his mind on Krishna. That's the beginning of sadhana bhakti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us an authorized program for this purpose, centered around the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This chanting has so much power that it immediately attaches one to Krishna. That is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. So there's so many other things, so many rules and regulations, and so many different practices. But this chanting of Hare Krishna is our most important program. That's what's going to do it for us, this chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Everything's there. All the Vedic mantras and the understandings and practices, everything's already there in this Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the essence of everything. So I'm going to take a detour just for a moment from Nectar of Devotion and move to Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Chaitanya talks about Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, receiving the seed of devotional service. A fortunate soul receives the seed of devotional service by the mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master after wandering around the material universe for millions and millions of births. So then, Maliha Kore She Bij Aropan Shravan Kirtan Jale Koreye Shechan. Mali. One has to become a Mali, a gardener. He's got the seed. Now he's going to be a gardener. And She Bij Aropan. He's going to sow the seed. And Shravan Kirtan Jole Koreye Shechon. And one has to sprinkle the water of hearing and chanting. That's crucial. If he waters the seed gradually by the process of Shravan Kirtan, the seed will begin to sprout. Shravan Kirtan, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada emphasizes worshiping the deity also. So all of these things, the deity worship Prabhupada emphasizes in several places, is very important, especially for the householders. So this bij, the seed of devotional service, is watered by hearing and chanting. As one waters the seed, it sprouts, the creeper gradually grows, it penetrates the walls of the universe, it goes beyond the Biraja river, the border of the materials and spiritual worlds. It attains the spiritual effulgence and keeps going and reaches Goloka Vrindavan. So what's making that happen? It's this hearing and chanting. There the devotee reaches Goloka Vrindavan. He takes shelter of the lotus feet. The creeper of devotional service takes shelter of the desire tree of the lotus feet of Krishna. But then, taha vistaritaha phale prema phal, iha mali sheche nitya shravanadi jal. Even then, as the creeper expands in Goloka Vrindavan and gives the fruit of love of God, the gardener, who's still in the material world, although the heart is in Goloka Vrindavan, sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. So in the beginning stage, in the intermediate stage, in the perfect stage, the chanting of the holy name is essential. Chanting and avoiding 10 offenses while chanting, avoiding Vaishnava aparads. These are all so important. Then Srila Prabhupada explains in the Nectar of Devotion, I'm moving back, that sadhana bhakti has two parts. In the first part, one follows the regulative principles by the order of the spiritual master or on the strength of the Shastras. You can't refuse, you have to do it. That's called Vaidhi, from Vidhi. It's a rule, you have to do it. And then the second part is called Raga Nuga, which refers to the point at which, by following these principles, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of natural love. For example, a person engaged in devotional service may be ordered to rise early in the morning and offer arti. In the beginning, by the order of the spiritual master, one rises early, offers arti, but then he develops real attachment. And when he gets this attachment, he automatically tries to decorate the deity, make different kinds of dresses, thinks of different plans for executing devotional service nicely. Although it's within the category of practice, this offering of loving service is spontaneous. So the practice of devotional service can be divided into two parts, regulative and spontaneous. So this is sort of an introduction to what sadhana bhakti is. It cures us of madness. What is that? Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasha jate. it brings us to the level of Krishna prema, and it frees us from madness, darkness, illusion. Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinashya. The spiritual master gives us the dedication, devotion to the spiritual master is not sentimental. Oh, Guru Maharaj, you're so wonderful, you're so great. Oh, we love you so much. Oh, Guru Maharaj. The Guru Maharaj gives some instructions, and one is meant to follow them. One is meant to follow them. The spiritual master is a teacher. One is expected to follow the lessons, follow the directions, follow the program given by the teacher, not just say, oh, teacher, you're so wonderful. That's also there. Every teacher likes to be appreciated. But mostly, the most important, the teacher expects to be followed. Expects that the instructions given will be followed. So the disciple means the person who comes under discipline. And that's the beginning. These things may be inconvenient to get up early in the morning. I'm not accustomed to getting up early in the morning. I'm accustomed to taking rest at 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and then getting up 6 hours later. That may be my pattern. And I'm happy to go on in that pattern. But the spiritual master gives an order, get up early. And therefore I have to adjust my life. I was hearing just the other day from Satchidananda Maharaj, he was saying, you can't just say, all right, now I'm going to get up early. You have to adjust things in such a way so that you can get up early. You have to create the conducive environment or the conducive conditions. You have to take the first steps that make it possible to get up early. So what is that first step? You take rest earlier. Without taking rest earlier, how am I going to get up earlier? Take rest at 11 and get up at 3. That's not going to work. So if we simply try to, yes, I'm going to do it, I'll get up early, we'll fail. But we have to make the adjustments so that everything will fit together. So we may need to make adjustments in our life. We may need to move this here, move that there, do without this, add that. Prabhupada many times says that we should mold our lives in such a way that we can always think of Krishna. That's the most important thing. These are the basic rules and regulations. What is that? Smartavyam satatam Vishnur vismartavyam najatuchet. One should always think of Krishna, and one should always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. These are the two most important rules and regulations. Vismartavyam najatuchet. Then sarva vidhi nishedasur etayor eva kinkara. All the other rules and regulations serve these two. That doesn't mean, well, I'll just do these two then and I'll forget the others. I'll just remember Krishna always and never forget Krishna. We're not going to do that. We'll pay lip service to the idea, but we won't do it. So to do it, we have to follow these other principles. That's why they're there. These are the servants of these two main principles. Oh, I don't need the servants. I'll just take the top two. No. The servants make it possible for the whole program to work. The servants, just if you're going to appear on television, you can't just say, well, I'll just come on in front of the camera. There has to be so many other things that are going on. There are, technicians and arrangers behind the scenes and producers. Not that I'll just come on, walk on. So not just that I'll just remember Krishna, I'll just love Krishna. I was brought up thinking of Krishna, so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. That's good if you have that background of Krishna consciousness, but these principles are meant to make us strong. These principles are meant to make us strong, to get us out of illusion and to get us into strong Krishna consciousness. So in that, Srila Rupa Goswami will describe 64 different items of regulative principles. But out of those, and they're all to be noted and as far as possible followed. Out of those, 5 are especially prominent. To associate with devotees, to serve the deity, to hear and study Srimad Bhagavatam, to chant the holy name of Krishna, and to live in Vrindavan, or a place like Vrindavan. These 5 are so potent. So our program of sadhana bhakti as given to us by Srila Prabhupada is rich in these items. These association of devotees, the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting of Hare Krishna, worship of the deity. In our temple programs, these are the essence. There may be other things, we do a yagya, we do a this, we do a that, but these are the essential items of practice. These are the essential items of practice. And therefore, if we're not living in the temple as brahmacharis, if we're living at home in householder life, we should make these principles strong. We should make these principles strong. If you can go to the temple physically, that's wonderful, because there everything's already, boom, in place. All you have to do is join. That's great. It's sadhana bhakti made easy. All these other people are doing it. You just sit down and do it with them. That becomes wonderful. But if you're not able to do that, you may be able to plug into a program like this one, where devotees are getting together for sadhana, for hearing, for chanting. Or you can make your own program. But then if you make your own, make it strong, make it steady, make it fixed. Even the deity worship, for example, should be steady. Not, I do it when I feel like it. It may have to be adjusted according to your home circumstances. That's understood, and therefore the way things are done by the householders may not be exactly the way things are done in the temple. But there should be a regular program. Nityam Bhagavata Seva, Jaya Puja Nityada. Regular. Just like if you're doing exercise. The most important thing, every day, whatever it is, push-ups, sit-ups, every day. If you're doing study, every day, not that you pick up the book 3 times a week. The students have to study every day, so they get what they call good study habits. It's even more important than what you actually learn in the book, is to develop, first of all, good study habits, because then you can study anything and you can become a good scholar. But if you have poor study habits, as they say, then it's hard to learn anything. The students who are accustomed, yes, every day I have to review this, every day I have to drill, every day I have to read. They will every day, writers even, those who are professional writers, there's very standard that they'll write a certain amount every day, either a certain amount of time or a certain amount of words or pages every day. Because if they don't do it every day, then the force, the tap stops flowing. But writing every day, then they become good at it. They look forward to it. Even on days when it's difficult, they do it. So this sadhana is not meant to be just kind of casual and when I feel like it and when I'm inspired. In the beginning, Vaidhi, the spiritual master said I should do this. The Shastras say I should do this. Let us do this. It may not come natural. It may involve some determination, some force, some self-discipline. Let me do it. There may be resistance. Some other family members say, why do we have to do this? Why should, why should we be fanatical? Why do we have to bend everything out of shape artificially? But as Prabhupada points out, it's not artificial. Krishna consciousness is natural, and these practices bring it out. These practices bring it out. And therefore it will be healthy for everyone. For the whole family, finally, it will be healthy. It will create, the fifth of those 5 items was to live in Vrindavan. So following these practices creates the situation of Vrindavan. Vrindavan is finally a transcendental state of consciousness. It's the consciousness that creates Vrindavan. So if in the home when in the home we regularly follow these principles, we create the atmosphere of Vrindavan. What is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajan? 18, what was that? Shuddha Bhakata Charanarena. Someone can look it up. He said that one day while performing devotional service, I saw my home had been turned into Goloka Vrindavan. My home had become Goloka Vrindavan. So how does that happen? By sadhana bhakti. By regular hearing and chanting, because then the home becomes filled with the holy name of Krishna, with the service of Krishna, with remembering Krishna, with talking about Krishna. So then it becomes as good as Goloka Vrindavan. Did someone find that verse for me? Whoever finds it can unmute themselves and speak up so that I'll know it's there. I don't.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's verse 6 of Shuddha Bhakta. Jaydena grihe bhajana dekhi, grihe te goloka bhaya.
Again. Tell me again.
Jaydena grihi bhajana.
Jaydin.
Sorry, Jaydena grihe.
Grihe bhajana dekhi.
Grihe te goloka bhaya.
Grihe te goloka bhaya. Prabhu, there it was. Yes, thank you. Yes. Yes. I saw that my home had been turned into Goloka Vrindavan. So, yes, thank you, right here. This is, and you read the whole song. Yes, there it is again. Thank you. Jaydin grihe bhajana deki, grihe te goloka bhaya. So you read the whole song and you'll see these practical, realized instructions from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the ideal householder acharya, are there to guide us so that in our married life, or if I'm not married, in my life without marriage, those who are the young people who are not married, or the brahmacharis and sannyasis, by following these principles, we'll see that everything becomes like Goloka Vrindavan. Our temples are Goloka Vrindavan. Why? Because of these activities. So your home can be as good as a temple, the same way. In the temple, it's not that we're only hearing and chanting, we're doing the accounts, we're cooking, we're cleaning, we're doing so many things, but with the understanding that Krishna is the center of everything, Krishna is the enjoyer, Krishna is the controller, everything should be offered to Krishna. And there's a program that supports that consciousness. So a similar program everyone can follow. And if you're not already following a rich morning program, then adjust, add something, strengthen it, and you'll enjoy it. That will be the next thing. In the first, it's like we have to undergo the trouble to put this thing together or to follow these things, despite so many pulls and pushes not to. But by doing it, then the next stage will come. That this is fun. This is nice. In the beginning, I didn't want to do this. In the beginning, I thought it was troublesome. Now, oh, how much pleasure we get by decorating Radha and Krishna, by chanting, by reading Srimad Bhagavatam together, by tuning into a conference of devotees, or by going to the temple, by chanting, sitting and chanting japa, how it becomes nice. So that's the next stage. In the beginning, because I have to. If I'm a disciple, I have to follow the discipline. But so I have to. But then the next stage is, oh, this is so nice. I look forward to this. I wish I could do this all the time. And then from the next stage, it becomes ecstasy. Finally, it becomes love for Krishna. So this is our sadhana program, and I'm going to stop here. And I'll leave some time for questions if you can stay on, or those stay on, because everyone does have a schedule, and I've messed up yours. But if you're able to stay a little longer, those who can stay, we'll do some questions and answers.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. This is a very nice and heart-touching class, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Now, devotees, if you have any questions, please raise your hand so that we can go by sequentially. Looks like Karunatha Prabhuji has a question. Prabhuji, you can unmute yourself and you can ask a question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. My question is, sometimes out of necessity or circumstances, we may have to take rest a little bit late. And I'm somebody who, when I don't get enough rest, less than 6 hours, say, I have a lot of inclarity in my mind. And so I'm kind of afraid of that state. I cannot really function so well, especially if it's very low sleep. So should I proceed to wake up at the hour that I decided, regardless, or I mean, I guess I'm struggling with the fear of lack of clarity that comes with not getting enough rest.
Well, yeah, I have the same thing, actually. I can function, maybe I can go for a day or half a day on, a low quota of sleep. I can't go day after day on 4 hours, even 5 hours day after day. I need at least 5.5 to keep me going, and sometimes maybe more than that. So if I just try to cut, I'll go into zombie mode, which is what you're talking about. And then what's the use of anything? So we have to be practical. We have to get enough rest. But that means, again, mold our life in such a way that regularly I'm able to get up with enough rest. maybe, you know, sometimes all sorts of things happen. You know, there's a late flight from Montana and I have to take rest at midnight, or, you know, there are things that happen. But and when we have a regular program, then that's not, you know, that's not a program. Like eating. You know, if you eat three meals a day, sometimes if you skip a meal, you can handle it. You don't feel it. You know, you just go on. But you can't do that every day. You can't do that every day. Skip and skip and skip and skip. So we have a strong program, strong nourishment by rising early and following these things. Then sometimes if there's an extraordinary circumstance, we have to take rest late, all right, then we adjust. Either we get up late or we get up at the usual time but take some rests later in the day. That's better than actually rising late. That, you know, we'll get it later. But we should mold our life in such a way. If it's regularly that I'm taking rest at 11, how am I going to get up early? I'm going to get up at 6, you know, 5, 6. That's not early anymore. And my rest is also going to be poor, because when you take rest at 11, you don't get good rest. So then I may have to look and say, what's going on in my life? What is it that's keeping me up to 11? Is it that I'm diddling around on the internet? Is it that I've left rounds till, you know, 8 o'clock in the evening? Is it that my job is, they expect me to do, you know, 4 shifts? What is it? And then, all right, how do I adjust it? Do I, well, if it's my rounds, then I say, okay, let's change the schedule and get those rounds in the morning. If it's something else, say, all right, if I'm diddling around on the internet, we say, okay, new rule. Laptop gets closed or computer gets shut down by whatever the hour is, so that I'm not distracted. If it's something else, how do I move it? If it's my job, maybe I have to think about this job, and you know, there are other things than just pay. I know devotees who've taken lower paying jobs for a better way of life. Decided that the better way of life was, you know, what am I working for finally? So people have, or they've gone to their boss and said, you know, here's what I'll do and here's what I won't do. I know that's not easy in today's job environment, but that sort of thing where you look at it and take an assessment and say, okay, here's what's right, here's what's wrong, here's what needs adjustment. What do I do? Not just that I let it sort of drag on. And then if there's the occasional, that's, you know, we'll manage.
That's great. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Next, Maharaj, one more question from Sindhu Mataji. Sindhu Mataji, you can unmute yourself. Please ask your question, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, the question that I have is, usually they say that you should be done with your rounds by like 7 o'clock in the morning, or at least aspire to finish them very early in the morning. Similarly, are there any guidelines to do deity worship, like aim for a certain time to be done in the morning?
Well, the first thing is that it's for the morning. That's the first thing. We'll talk about what time in the morning, but the first thing is the morning. That's our best time. The Brahma Muhurta is the most auspicious time for spiritual activities. So you can calculate when that is. And all spiritual programs, there's a special force from taking them on in the morning. And then there are ending the day with spiritual activities that really puts the cap on the day. But the morning, that's the first thing. Now the deity worship, I don't know. It's not my strength, deity worship, so I don't know what the particular rules are. What hour. First thing is regular. First thing is regular. If it's four every day. If it's 5, if it's 6, if it's 7, whatever it is, if we can make it regular, that's very good. That makes our life simpler. If I know that every day I'm doing this, then it's okay. It's not problematic. If I have to start juggling, what time am I going to do this today? Every day is a new juggle. Nothing works well that way. So regular. That's very important. And then the next thing is, well, what time? I don't know a particular time. It has to be done by 7. It has to be done by 8. It has to be done by 6. You know that in the temples, the Mangal Arati is generally at 4:30. If you can have an early program like that, that's super wonderful. A good way to think is on so many things that until I finish these things, I won't take my breakfast. Because once you take your breakfast, it's over. So, and that provides an incentive because everyone likes to take breakfast. So first, let me complete my deity worship, the things that I've decided to do. Let me complete that. Then I'll take my breakfast and carry on. You don't want it to be too late because then everything else can get in the way. And you don't want it to be so early that you can't maintain it. So within those parameters, you can think about what to do. Or the instruction by your own spiritual master may be there. You do this, do that. Is that okay?
Thank you, Maharaj. Yes, thank you so much.
Maharaj, one more question, Maharaj.
I should just add that 7, if you can finish your rounds by 7, that's wonderful. But there's no particular rule you must finish by 7, unless your spiritual master has given you a rule or you yourself have adopted it as a rule for yourself. Other Prabhupada said that in his householder life he was chanting 4 rounds. I think he said before breakfast, 4 rounds before lunch, 4 rounds before. So there has to be a regular program, and exactly how you do that may vary. But certainly, the more you can do in the morning time, the better. And if you can do everything in the morning time, you're done. And you don't have any unexpected things getting in the way. You don't have to be staying up till 11 o'clock trying to drag your way through your last round. Everything's all fixed up. So that's ideal. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Next question.
Sorry, Maharaj. Next question, Maharaj, from Alisha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. Maharaj, my question is that sometimes I do wake up by 4:30, 4:45, but the thing is, I don't feel that alive and alive while chanting, which it becomes very it's just like a morning routine that I have to do. So how do we each and every day feel alive while chanting, not that just getting up and just doing your rounds because you have to finish it by 7:38. So how do you keep yourself enriched and enthused?
It appears to be just like dry practice. How do we keep ourselves enlivened and enthused? How does it become alive?
Yes, yeah.
The answer is by doing those things. In the beginning, it will be because the Guru told me to, because the Shastras say, because my husband said I have to do it, because I know I'm supposed to do it. And so I chant these mechanical rounds. I do the Mangal Arati because I have to. I read Srimad Bhagavatam because I'm supposed to. In the beginning, that's what it is. That's called Vaidhi. Vaidhi means in response to rules, in compliance with the rules. That's the beginning. Because it's not that we're all spontaneous devotees, that we, all we have to do is like, turn some little screw in our head, and then we're full of unlimited enthusiasm and all of that. Where does that enthusiasm come from? It comes from doing it. The second stage comes from the first stage. What's the first stage? I have to do this. What's the second stage? I like doing this. I want to do this more. I want to do this better. But there's nothing wrong with the first stage. Let me take up the first stage and do it. And if I do it seriously, then by doing it that way, I'll come to the second stage. We have to be a little patient. That's also Rupa Goswami says, patience. So let me follow the rules and regulations patiently and with whatever enthusiasm I can put into it. And then it will come to the next stage, that this is so nice. In the beginning, I thought it was, a little tough, but now it's like, oh, I just love to do this. So we shouldn't despair if in the beginning it's a little mechanical. It's expected. Just like anything you learn. You learn music. You learn music. So what is learning music? Playing scales. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. On and on and on. The teacher says, I want you to play these scales for at least 20 minutes, whatever it is. What fun is that? It's just scales. But because you do it, then it becomes like, okay, I like doing this, and I'm doing it better. And then from there it comes into, you can play wonderful music. You can be a wonderful musician. But if you just try to jump to the wonderful musician platform, you'll fall on your face. But if you start with da 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 da, and you do it patiently. I heard from one devotee. Who was that? Trying to remember. I have his face in my mind. I don't have his name. And since he got initiated after that, anyway, his name has changed. But he's a very expert mridanga player. He's like the expert mridanga player. And he told he'd learned from a professional expert mridanga player. And he told me there's some story in the, sampradaya, in the mridanga player sampradaya. Some student, he was told to chant one beat, like kitata or something, just play that over and over. And he did. And somehow or other, he left the ashram, or there was something happened, and he didn't meet the guru again till like 10 years later or 20 years later. But all he knew was the same beat, but he knew it so well that when the teacher heard it, he was in ecstasy. He played it in such a way that the teacher was in ecstasy. That was the story, as I recall it. So these are simple things, to chant 16 rounds, to offer Mangal Arti. And they may be difficult in the beginning, it may be a struggle, but by sticking with that struggle, we'll make progress. And there are things we can do if we associate with others who are doing the same thing. That gives us some taste, if we associate with those who already have some more taste than we do. Again, Satchidananda Maharaj was saying we associate with someone who's a little more advanced than us. You know, we always want to associate with the most advanced devotees, but we can't be like them. If we can associate with someone a little more advanced, we think, well, like I can do that. Associate with those who are more advanced, and look, you can even think before you take rest that tomorrow I'm going to do this, and let me look forward to it. Sometimes it's just changing our mindset. Devamrita Maharaj was making that point, that rather than think, oh, I have to chant my rounds, think that let me chant my rounds. This is an opportunity. This is something I can look forward to. And then naturally you want to aspire, keep that aspiration that I want to chant with enthusiasm. I want to serve with enthusiasm. Even if I don't have enthusiasm, at least let me want to have enthusiasm. And then it will come. Gradually, gradually it will come. Is that okay?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, we have a couple more questions. I don't know your timings. Is that okay? We can go for, it's 11:27.
I owe you some minutes.
Oh, thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, there is one question from Lavagna Latika Mataji. Mataji, can you please unmute yourself and you can raise your question, Mataji. Mataji, are you there? Lavanga Latika Mataji?
Yeah,
Can you
thank
please
you.
unmute
Hare
yourself?
Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I was just wondering about the importance of singing like Guru Vastakam, Tulsi Arati, Nishingadev prayers, and the other songs that are done at the temple. Because somehow or other, you know, I tend to prioritize chanting, and I don't always, you know, I don't always do the songs, although I like to do them. Sometimes I do them extremely quickly, or
What do you chant in the shower?
chant, like do the singing. Yeah, I mean, I'm usually chanting slokas at that time.
Good.
Because I have a few slokas that I try to recite every day, not many, and I probably don't really know them that well, but I still try to do them. But the songs and the singing, I mean, I know they're important, but I tend to generalize, I tend to see them as kind of optional, but how like important is it to our development of Krishna consciousness to
Very
do?
important. Jayam Stuvam Stasya Yashastri Sandhyam. We should, the Guru is, our relationship with our Guru is so important. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Pakati Shadma. Bando Mui Savadhan. These are important instructions and important things to remember. That's why they're there. One time I remember just when this Guru Puja was being introduced, because it wasn't there in the beginning. Prabhupada in Bombay, he said this Guru Puja is very important. He said very important. So they, so look for the time. I understand that.
Yeah. No, I have time, but there's like 2 Zoom japa sessions that I do in the morning. It goes from like 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. And I just get stuck in the chanting.
Well, you have to chant. You can't leave that out. So, so don't stop your chanting, your 16 rounds at least. Then you have to look for the time.
Yeah.
Even, if it has to be while you're cooking, or it has to be, even about it. How long does it take to chant Gurvastakam. It takes like 5 minutes, really.
Yeah. Would you say it's like equally important?
It's important, yeah. Of course, Prabhupada said that chanting 16 rounds was the most important, but you can do it.
Yeah,
But
sure.
you can do this. I'm sure you can.
I think I can. I just need encouragement to do it. Yeah.
I encourage you.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Maharaj, there is another question. Niti Lakshana Devi Mataji. Mataji, can you please unmute and raise your question, Mataji? Niti Lakshana Devi Mataji.
Meanwhile, I'm going to answer 2 questions that are on the chat. What's the latest a householder should rise? What's the latest they should begin chanting? Well, I don't have a specific hour for you, but householders or brahmacharis, we're all supposed to rise in time for the Brahma Muhurta, which is an hour and a half before sunrise. That's, we should do that. Even Krishna, who doesn't have to do anything, he was doing that. You read his daily activities in Dwarka, he was getting up at that time. Rukmini wasn't very happy about it, but he did. So we should try to rise early, and that would be if I have to choose a time, I'd say in time for the Brahma Muhurta. What's the latest to begin chanting? I don't have a particular prescription about that, but not later than, not so late that you can't do it. That's the first thing. If you start early, you like today. I had my first class. This is my second class of the day. The first one was at 7:20, and then I have my deity worship and other things. So I knew I have to start chanting early today, because if I start later, it's going to be a mess. So early is the earlier you can do it, the better. What's the latest? I don't have a time to tell you, but not so late that it becomes more difficult. If you if you begin late so that it ends late, like 11 o'clock at night, then you're just making life more difficult for yourself. Better to take rest early and start earlier on chanting. Then there's when we start molding our life for Krishna, will Krishna help in that or make it difficult to test us? Maya will make it difficult, Krishna will make it easy. So chant Hare Krishna and Krishna will help you. Yes, then the live question.
Maharaj, there is one question in the chat from Varsana Mataji. Mataji was asking how to maintain enthusiasm and manage morning sadhana when morning dynamic sadhana is a challenge, when dealing with long-term illness that make morning hours difficult to function.
I don't see that in the chat.
Sent it to me privately.
That's why. Okay. So how do you maintain enthusiasm despite illnesses and despite, tell me again?
How to maintain enthusiasm and manage morning sadhana when morning dynamic sadhana is a challenge, when dealing with the long-term illness that make morning hours difficult to function.
Okay. Well, first thing is, when it's a challenge, well, challenge gives, you can be enthusiastic about challenges. When there's challenges, that's what gives you strength, and we can be enthusiastic. All right, there's a challenge, let me do it. That's all right. And even when there's some difficulty, but then by doing something that's a little more difficult, we feel more accomplishment also. Yes, it was difficult, but I did it. Now that's within reason, because there are things that, it's just not reasonable to expect that you'll do. If you're in illness, then you may not be able to rise at such and such time, or you may not be able to do whatever it is. Of course, if you can, sometimes we hear that this person, in spite of being ill, they kept up their practices. And if you can do that, it's wonderful. And not just sort of say, well, I'm sick, so, and then we drop it. But to be quite determined that even, all right, I may be a little ill, but still I would do these other things, Maya. So let me do this for Krishna, even if I'm a little ill. But someone has a serious chronic illness or whatever, all right, adjust. If you can't do it at this time, do it at that time. But then make a time. If your whole morning is hellish and you can't do anything before 9 o'clock, all right, then make a slot, 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock or whatever it's going to be, that this is my sadhana time. Because if you just leave it to be like splattered around during the day, it may not work so well. Even if you have to say, all right, half an hour at this time, half an hour at that time, half an hour at this time, half an hour at that time. Then you have a plan, and you can measure it. All right, I've done this 3 out of 4, and now I can do the 4th one. A plan can help us, and having something regular, something you can manage, something that's not utopian, something you can do, something that's not going to, that you can do, that you can sustain, not that you can just do it for 3 days and then collapse. Sustainable, doable, sane, that's the quality of a devotee. Devotee is sane. But it's there. That at the end of the day, I've done these things. And all right, if some, depending, if there are circumstances I could envision where you can't do anything. You're practically unconscious. You can't do anything. All right, what can be done? But to the extent that I'm able, and even a little beyond what I'm able, let me try with determination to do these things, and in such a way that it's regular, that it's practical. Okay. Good.
Yeah, I don't see any more questions, Maharaj, in the chat, or no one has.
You're not going to see me either because there are no more questions, and there's now time is officially declared fulfilled.
Maharaj, sorry, Maharaj, I just one devotee has raised hand, Meena Mataji. Sorry.
All right.
Meena Mataji, please, can you please unmute yourself and raise your question?
It's just not a question, but Hare Krishna Prabhuji is it was Maharaj. It's very, very nice class, I learned lots of things regarding the sadhana, how to do in morning. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji. And now I have to go. I have another meeting next door, Bhaktivedanta Institute. And thank you for your company. My apologies again for being off time. And look forward to meeting you again on schedule.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Looking forward for your association in this pandemic situation.
Thank you
so much for your association, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
Maharaj.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Happy chanting and happy sadhana.
Hare Baba.
Thank you.
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you so much.
Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Shyam
Giridhari.
Shyam Giridhari Prabhu.
Yes, Maharaj.
Please accept my obeisances. Humble obeisances. I like to find out, is this a regular program?
Every Saturday we will be having program, Mataji. Is ISKCON Richmond program every Saturday from 10 to 11:30.
10 to 11:30. Okay. Thank you. So it's who comes in the different
devotees.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Kaumudaki Dasi from Baltimore.
Oh,
I just wanted to find out. Thank you.
thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.